Guys, just going through a couple of previous student questions in the webinars. So is grounded theory exclusively used in certain fields or applicable in all fields? Right, so this came from the grounded theory webinar that we had with Dr. Lindley Howard Payne previously. A great chat with her, lots of value, and it looks like a lot of students out there doing qualitative research and needing tips and tricks on methods like grounded theory. So to answer this question, is grounded theory exclusively used in certain fields or applicable in all fields? It is applicable in all fields, but it depends on the type of study that you want to run, or the type of research you want to do, or the nature of the data that you have that you need to analyze. So within the field, if your data is relatively unstructured, like for example interviews, or even it could be images, or it could be newspaper articles, there's basically any type of content that you can analyze. If it's much more statistical or based on calculations and quantitative in nature, then grounded theory is perhaps not your first choice. But regardless of the field, if the data source, because you can always introduce humans as an example, and humans can always talk about something, and then you will need to analyze the results of your interviews with those humans, and grounded theory is absolutely perfect for that. So I certainly believe it is applicable in all fields. And the reason I got into grounded theory, and I use grounded theory to study software engineering, which typically is a little bit more reliant on the scientific methods. And I wouldn't say grounded theory is not a scientific method, but it's more originated from the humanities and the social sciences, for example. The reason I got into grounded theory is because of the powerful way in which it structures your study and the very powerful way in which it produces that end result. So the end result of a grounded theory study is a grounded theory. You are following an inductive method of producing a theory at the end of it, rather than a deductive method, which is testing an existing theory. So just a very important distinction there. Applicable in all fields, depends on the nature of the study that you want to do and the nature of the data that you have. But I think also importantly, and I do teach this in the course on writing proposals, you need to take that onion approach. Start with that philosophical mindset that you have to how you believe knowledge is created in the world, and then you go through that onion method, and then once you peeled off the layers of the onion, you actually get to the middle of the onion, where it then talks about are you doing mixed methods, are you doing surveys, are you doing grounded theory, case study, etc. So don't jump too quickly into whether or not you're doing a ground theory study. Follow that onion method in one of my courses, and there's links below to all my courses, so go and have a look at that. And just make sure that you're arriving at your conclusion to follow grounded theory in a fairly methodical way. And look, I jumped to grounded theory, but then in my thesis, I went back through that onion method to explain to the examiner, what was the logical, philosophical approach that I took to result in deciding on grounded theory is the right method for my research. So hopefully all that is useful.